Mr. René, how are you doing?
Good. Interesting to be back in the podcast studio on the other side of the world. We did one here 2 years ago.
Yes, we're broadcasting live from Bali today. It's a little bit of a different vibe. We got some coconuts here in front of us. If you're listening on the audio, it's a good vibe. So how's it been for you, been back here in Bali?
Yeah, it was really great after a quite intense year in Berlin, which was fun, but also challenging. I think it was the perfect time to come back to Bali for many reasons, and also noticing that I really enjoy not only traveling like I maybe used to before. I mean, I'm here for 2 months, and it was a great mix of upskilling as a breath worker from our mentor and teacher Edward, also doing a lot for myself, a lot of practices, just grounding myself again and having a little bit of holiday, bit of sport, friends time, and just a great mix of learning professionally and having a good time.
Nice. Would you say you're feeling more alive after all that?
Yeah, I would say so.
Good. Well, you're in the right place because that's what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah.
This topic of feeling more alive.
Yeah.
So, this is something that consistently comes up with clients and people who come to us, for retreats or breathwork, and they consistently, I think, have this theme of like feeling flatness. What have you noticed about this before we dive in? Like, what's been your experience?
Yeah, I made an Instagram post about this randomly like a year ago, and was the one I got the most answers to when I kind of described my own experience of before breathwork and before I made some changes in my life, that even though life was really good, I felt kind of numb. I didn't really feel alive. It felt kind of boring, and I couldn't pin it down what it was. But yet it wasn't the same as when I think 10, 15, 20 years back when I had this excitement. And there was a lot of resonance from people, and I speak to this with every client who comes to me for the first time, and I kind of ask this question, and most people really admitting then to themselves, wow, life is not that exciting anymore, even though it's good on paper.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of the thing, because it takes the recognition of like feeling not flat after having felt flat, I think, to really recognize like, oh, wow, life can be different, So I imagine that insight came after having filled in the blanks a bit more and felt more alive again, maybe, which is what we want to explore today.
100%, yeah. It was quite frustrating having created and lived that life that I thought I want, having fun, doing everything I want to do every day.
Yeah.
Like, isn't that what I was always looking for? And then like being very frustrated, feeling actually unfulfilled and empty.
Yeah.
And then going through these experiences, and I think that's kind of opens the topic for me. There's like two things. It's one, what's happening inside of me, which things are maybe unresolved or suppressed within me that hold me back from feeling, maybe how I want to protect myself from feeling too much. And then the other thing is, how can I create a life on an everyday basis where I can experience some new things again, and where I can get those impulses that actually make me feel alive, and that life is not boring.
Yeah.
And that means going out of comfort zone for me as well.
Totally. Well, I think, we're going to break all that down and explore it. So, like, just to kind of frame it on a meta level, I think this challenge, this deeper problem that has been faced by a lot of men, particularly, but a lot of people, who've, gone out in the world with this maybe desire or belief that, okay, if I work hard, if I do all these things, if I achieve this level of success, then I will at some point feel happy. And they kind of go out and follow the tracks and do the thing and have success. And maybe many years later, wake up realizing, oh no, like, it's not, maybe they're not even aware of it, but there's a loss of that, initial drive and purpose that they felt. And it's been replaced by this kind of flatness or numbness that, just feels kind of like the opposite of feeling alive, we'll just say, it's just kind of dead and boring. And it's a challenging place to be in, because what does one do about this? How do we remedy that feeling of like feeling not alive?
And especially also like not stopping necessarily what I'm doing. Maybe the company I'm running or the thing that also stresses me is at the same time something I want to keep doing. So what changes can I implement without losing that? I don't have to become a monk and just sit in the forest and meditate and stop, living this,
existing or participating in society kind of thing.
Yeah, and I think that's really important also for people to understand. And I think that's why many guys like to come to us because we don't want to try to take that away from them. We ourselves are interested in business and in being productive and achieving things. That's not a bad thing. But somewhere in this whole system, there's an error because otherwise so many people wouldn't feel that flat.
Totally. So what was your experience of, this feeling of flatness in your life that you spoke about, like in this Instagram post you said that resonated so much with people?
It was basically just feeling a kind of senselessness that it didn't really matter what I did on that particular day. I just still felt like it's kind of boring. Even though if I did the same thing 10 years ago, it would have been super exciting.
Yeah.
So I thought, what am I doing with my life? Because today is a beautiful day in Thailand. I'm at the beach. I'm free to do whatever I want. I'm free to meet new people, to eat great food, which I'm doing every day.
Yeah.
But it just became so normal that I started to question, like, what's underneath that? I'm not feeling anything.
Yeah.
And that, how can I continue to live while I'm already basically in the best place, doing the best things, and feeling not good?
Yeah.
And I'm still young.
Totally. And I can kind of relate from that feeling of having done everything I wanted to do or I thought I wanted to do and achieving the goals or the life that I thought I wanted and getting there and everyone else telling me how great it is and how happy I must be, and then feeling that disconnect with actually, no, I don't feel that much. And, maybe there was a time where it felt stimulating and exciting, but that faded away. And what was left was this feeling of maybe emptiness. And flatness, And so that's kind of what we're exploring. And that's the consistent theme that shows up around this topic, also with clients and people who turn up. So, what we want to do in today's podcast is really get to the bottom of this, of like what's happening actually under the surface, and helping people to really maybe identify a little bit of like what could personally for them be happening so that they can, understand this and maybe find a path forward back to that more feeling of feeling alive and full, and excited for life.
Yeah.
So that's our goal. So what would you say are some of the reasons why, someone on a deeper level has these feelings of flatness or numbness come up? Like, what's the actual thing that's happening in the system?
Yeah, I think the one thing that can happen is just kind of protecting oneself from emotions in general. Yeah. So many people are afraid to feel emotions because there can be painful emotions, and often it leads back to early years and we are not even aware of it. Certainly I wasn't aware of it. I was kind of numbing all of these things with my great lifestyle. Yeah.
And I had a great childhood, no problems, all good.
I did have a good childhood, but still I found out later there was still a lot of things I took with me. And I think just finding a way where I don't have to look at that and just numbing it with fun activities all the time. But those fun activities became normal and became boring. And then these things started to surface slowly that I didn't want to look at. And in order to protect myself from feeling them, I was also kind of just stopping to feel much in general, which also prevented me from feeling the joy that I maybe felt before. And everything was kind of okay. It felt safe. It was never really bad and was never really good. Yeah. So I think that's what happens for a lot of people. And with business, for example, so much responsibility and all the employees and what is everybody thinking about me. And then I have a family and a partner and maybe family I have to take care of. And it's a lot. And if I would feel every stress or every painful emotion that could be associated to that, it gets too much. So I stopped. It's more safe to stop feeling that.
Absolutely. Like, this is the thing. You could say it's chicken and egg. So like, one scenario is someone who's driven to be an entrepreneur comes from a background where on some level they felt like they needed or wanted to prove themselves or create something bigger than themselves. So they're driven to then do that. And a part of that kind of pattern and behavior is maybe a not feeling of what's there. Because if I felt, let's just say hypothetically, I grew up feeling like not worthy or not good enough. And then I have an inner like unconscious drive to prove to the world or my dad that I'm good enough, and then I go out and I like crush it. Now, I've been suppressing those feelings of unworthiness, and as a result, I'm very successful and efficient in business, at creating success because I got this big driver pushing me forward. Let's say I didn't have that to the same degree, but I still want to go down the path of entrepreneurship, like as a founder or as a leader in business. There's not a lot of time, as you said, to be hanging around feeling everything. Like, it's kind of inefficient. Like, it's not really, there's not really a good return metric on feeling the emotions, on a logical kind of left brain level. So it's kind of like, let's put that aside for later or just put it aside and then I don't have to feel it. And then I can focus on this, presentation I need to do for the investors, or even channeling that energy into, driving forward and pulling an all-nighter or whatever. The problem with that is most, I would say, entrepreneurs think, okay, I just put it aside and then I don't have to feel it and then it's gone, and then I can work harder. And what they're not recognizing is basically the net cost that's building up in the background of suppressing and pushing these things aside. That ironically, the thing that's driving them to achieve happiness and fulfillment by achieving an exit or a lot of success in business, the mechanism they're using to get there, i.e. suppressing emotions, is actually the thing that stops them from enjoying that win when they finally get it, because it's kind of like, they've they're trying to get to a certain destination and they need to kind of, walk there, and then they're kind of chopping off their leg halfway there to get there. So it's almost like once they arrive, they can't even enjoy it because they're now missing a leg kind of thing. Yeah. Now, that's, I think, a really big part of this, because we effectively, we can't selectively numb emotions. We can't say, I only want the good ones, no bad ones, Like joy, happiness, fulfillment, great. Anger, grief, shame, no, don't want that, And I'll just choose off the buffet list kind of thing. Yeah. And it doesn't really work like that, because we have this graph, which is kind of like, a full spectrum graph of plus and minus 10, we'll say, plus 10 being the highest emotions, minus 10 being the lowest. And it's almost like this decreasing curve over time where, as we more and more through our life repress the, inverted commas, negative emotions, we also lose access to the positive ones. So what that could look like is, love is directly paired with grief. So my ability to grieve is equal to my capacity to receive and give love. What that would look like is if I'm really scared about feeling or suffering pain, because of loss, I love my dog and I don't want to lose my dog because then that would be really painful. So what I do is I suppress or shut down my love for my dog because I know that one day he might die and then I'm going to hurt. So I better shut it down so that I don't feel pain once he dies.
It's a very good example.
Yeah. But then, of course, then for the 20 years my dog is here, I can't actually really be with him because I'm consistently, unconsciously pushing it down in order to not feel pain in the future.
That actually reminds me, I didn't plan to say that at all. I mean, many things come up as we go anyways, but now when you gave the dog example, I actually had a client, and she kept telling me stories about different dogs. And I said, oh, do you have a dog? And she said, no. And I said, well, it seems to me like you really love dogs. She's like, yeah, so much. I said, why don't you have one? Because she also has the time for it. And her answer was, I don't want to get a dog because one day it's going to die and I don't want to deal with the pain. And I'm like, wow, so you're sacrificing 15 years of joy every day that you would have with that dog because you're so afraid of that one moment. Yeah. And that was really like, wow, when I heard that.
Yeah.
So, and everything you said now, I think that was great. And I just want to link it a little bit to breathwork again and my experience with that. Because this fear of feeling those quote unquote negative emotions, it's like it has given me a completely new frame as, well, yeah, we say it's negative emotions, but they're just emotions. They're just as much part of life and unavoidable as the good ones. And actually we need them in order to feel the good ones. So it's became more and more logical to me. And I love what our teacher Edward said, with the work that we do, we reduce suffering. Because every human is going to suffer in their lifetime, some more, some less.
Something's going to happen,
Yeah, but just taking away this intense fear from certain emotions and then being able to deal with them better and quicker just reduces the suffering. I think that sums it up really well. And it made it for me in those breathwork sessions without having to really speak to somebody, look somebody in the eye, but just I was with myself in the journey and I experienced those emotions that I was suppressing for a long time. And I came out feeling safe, good, free, light. And I was like, oh, okay, maybe it's not too bad to feel them. And that's not only my story, it's many, many clients say the same. And just losing this fear of certain emotions and knowing, yeah, it's okay to feel them. They're going to be part of life. Yeah. But then, okay, wow, now I also feel the good things way more again. And I don't need this extremely high peak experiences all the time to feel something. I can just go out for a walk in the morning and listen to the birds. Sounds weird, but I love that. It's one of my favorite things to do now. it's not all I'm doing. What
Yeah, sure,
it's
yeah.
great to have
Well, the thing is, yeah,
this
it's
capacity.
like I can relate to that feeling of like having done like some of this deeper breath work, coming out of these like intense fight or flight states and being able to just be relaxed enough to take in, because there's so much like stimulus and joy around that we can actually, that's already there and already accessible. Most people are chasing some future outcome, some future reality that, like I said, ironically, they can't even fully take in and experience once they achieve it. Like it's like the thing of like being on the stage, accepting the award, and not even being in your body because the person's so jacked up and like in fight or flight, you know? I was kind of thinking of, there's this quote like, pain is inevitable, suffering is a choice. And it's that thing of like life's going to give, there's going to be uncomfortable things that happen, but the degree to which we suffer is a choice. So a great example of this would be, if I have a toothache, I can, be proactive and go to the dentist and have it checked out and maybe, I don't know, have it worked on or filling or removed or something. Or I can feel the pain and numb it. I can take painkillers, I can avoid it, I can be scared of going to the big scary dentist and him taking out my tooth and how terrible it's going to be. And more, it's just getting worse and worse in the background to the point where it actually could cripple me and it's like unavoidable anymore. So I'm waiting for that like basically root canal to happen to actually deal with the tooth instead of saying, oh, there's a little pain, and I just move it, deal with it, and then it's like, it's done,
I think this was honestly the story of my life, to continuously knowing that there's something I need to do and it's in the back of my head, but I would avoid any conflict or any uncomfortable, painful situation, no matter what it was, but it was lingering there and it was actually stressing me so much all the time.
Yeah.
Whereas now, I don't want it anymore and I can't do it anymore because it's so present. If there's something I need to do, conversations I need to have, that I'm just doing it and I know, okay, it's a bit uncomfortable right now, but then it almost feels like my mind and my body is clean and I move forward and I know there is no open tabs and no construction sites inside of me that have to be finished, because I know, I did what I can in real time, and this is a really great feeling of freedom.
Yeah. So from the perspective of aliveness, and this feeling of feeling alive and full of energy and excited for life and getting up in the morning and feeling good, maybe for no apparent reason, I think that's the juice.
Yeah.
The way I want to think about this is less about trying to achieve or do something outside of ourselves to feel more alive, like chasing a high, which is what we're typically conditioned to do. I'd like to think about it more as a removal of the inner blocks or compressors that are holding down the natural emergence of aliveness. Because I think as humans, like if you look at a child, they're not sitting there necessarily depressed unless they've had some pretty difficult stuff happen to them. Typically a child, when left to their own devices, will run around, play in nature with other kids, with other people. It just comes naturally. He doesn't have to, go and do something to feel more alive, do his morning routine. It's like it's a kid. He just runs around and is happy and is alive. And that's that thing of like kids are full spectrum emotion. They're able to feel everything and they haven't yet, well, depends on the household, but it's as we go on, we get conditioned by parents, by society to suppress this stuff. And that happens even more than when we become an adult and we've got all these responsibilities, maybe of having our own family, and our own employees and that kind of thing. So it makes sense that, that feeling, that childlike quality gets kind of suppressed or pushed down. But the way I want to think about this is the removal of the blocks. Imagine your body being in like a freeze state. Okay, so there's a thing called a functional freeze, which is where our body is still operating and moving, but it's kind of numb. Okay, so imagine getting like a very mild painkiller or anesthetic. Okay, you don't feel what's actually happening, which means you're functional. You can get shit done, like with the tooth analogy. The tooth isn't healed, but you can still continue to go about your day and not be in pain. But that doesn't mean that you're really feeling anything. It's actually numbed your mouth.
Yeah.
So the example with this is by not feeling the deeper emotions and being willing to sit with this stuff underneath, the body's suppressing everything. It's suppressing the good and the bad, okay? Which is the flat line, which is the lack of aliveness. So by starting to open this up again and come out of this kind of functional freeze state, we can, which is basically through the process of feeling what's uncomfortable, like fear of, my dog dying, for instance, then we can start to open up to the actual joy of having a dog again. That's kind of the pathway. So what we want to do now is just for you at home to give you a bit of a visualization so you can connect to like your own level of feelings of aliveness and just tuning in with how you feel today and how that compares to other times in your life. So do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, sure. Just gonna get out my notes here. Yeah, so just close down your eyes, sit down, take a deep breath or two. Just feeling the stillness in the body as you exhale. And now just imagine the present day, a usual Monday in your life. And you're waking up. And your week is about to start, your day, but also your week. How excited are you from 1 to 10? Just feel into it. Pick a number. What are the prominent thoughts, both positive, negative, about the current state of your week and your life? And basically, how excited are you? Take another deep breath, let it land. Now, travel back in time a little bit, maybe to your teenage years, early 20s. And imagine it's Friday, it's weekend, you're going to meet with your friends, you're going to have some fun plans. Or imagine your first business success. Maybe the first time you had some money on your account. How did you feel? Did you call somebody? How excited were you when these things happened? Or the magic of the first kiss, for example. Now take another deep breath. And we're going to go back a little more into your childhood. Now imagine just a sunny day in spring or in summer playing outside with your friends. How carefree were you then? What was on your mind? Did you think much about tomorrow, about yesterday? How was your ability to be in the moment, to just enjoy? And how does that compare to your ability to do that today? So take one more breath. And here we are again. Just a little quick exercise to check in with yourself and see if you feel any differences. This is one in a more extended form that we like to do on our retreats, where we take a bit more time than just a few minutes, but I find it's always like a pretty nice reminder. And some of you might think, hey, actually I can still do that, and maybe you have different topics, and that's also great. But I bet there's a few of you who think, oh shit, that felt different.
Yeah, this can be confronting. So just if you're noticing some challenge with recognizing the gap between, reflecting on your Monday morning versus your late teens Friday evening or early childhood playing in the field. It's like it is a pretty common thing, for people to have this experience. It's not something that we're consciously made aware of usually, because we get caught up in the busyness of life and all the tasks at hand. So this is just good information. Whatever you're experiencing is real, it's important, and the main thing to know is that there is ways forward. And I think we can both speak to, and also to many clients who've had that experience of just reaccessing everything from just contentment and peace to joy, ecstasy, fulfillment, deep happiness, even from simple things in life, not needing much to be happy.
Yeah, that's it. And it's of course my goal is also not to be again like a child and just play around, don't think about anything. That's not the expectation I have towards myself and my life today as an adult, but to have access to that childlike play sometimes, and to those emotions, or to this excitement about something. Of course, that's amazing to have.
Yeah.
And again, I think why the breathwork sessions can be so powerful, or were for me in that sense, was because I didn't believe that I had it in me anymore. And then even if it was just for 2 minutes in this breath work, and I felt that again.
Yeah, to
I'm
touch
like,
it for a moment, yeah.
Yeah, touch it for a moment. It was like, okay, it's still there. It's still in me. So that gave me the hope and the motivation that there is more for me there and that I can re-access that still now as an adult.
Yeah. Yeah, so there's, really two main things. There's many, but two of the main things that we've identified as ways to create this new reopening to the aliveness of life, sorry, as a child would, to remove those blocks to what's naturally lying underneath, which is what you mentioned. It's like, it's not that one loses it forever. It's just that it's hidden. And I think once we tap into an access and realize that fire's still inside, the path forward can be clear. So the first thing is like what we've been kind of speaking to, which is this, processing and letting go of maybe emotions or experiences that are stored in the background. So imagine like on your computer having all these programs and tabs open in the background that are draining the battery every day. There's not a lot of new capacity on the computer to do a lot of like new things or to, explore, install new programs. It's kind of just like keeping running and hoping it doesn't crash. So one of the main things we can do is to go in and to feel some of these, more tabs or the things we've put in the box on the side when we were busy building a business or, with our family, and being able to close them off creates the space for the energy to be redirected from holding those down to feeling positive things, So that's consistently been a really powerful path forward, to feel and close them off. And that's something that, of course, we do with, the breathwork sessions and the retreats and stuff, which is helping people to re-access, those memories. And even though it might seem scary, the actual process is only maybe, can be 30 seconds, kind of like getting the tooth removed, It saves many weeks or months of pain, and it's a very quick process, and it reopens very quickly then to, what's underneath the joy.
Yeah.
And then the second one, which is something that you're exploring now more of this year as well, is now that we, have a bit more space, how can we change our routine? Because a lot of this thing about flatness also can come from, sameness, being stuck in a routine, not having new experiences to really open us. Like, when you go to a new place and it's maybe a beautiful sunset and it catches your eye. Like I used to feel that when we would go to Greece, being on the island and seeing this beautiful sunset with this opera music playing, and just seeing the sunset, and it took my breath away because it was so powerful, even though I was super stressed at the time, And, now I've been living in that island for many years or going there in the summers. And even though the sunset's so beautiful, there's something about seeing something for the first time and having a new experience that wakes us up. So, tell me more about that on your end.
Yeah, I think this is super powerful. So I think the older we get, the harder it will be to find things that we haven't experienced before. Be that traveling, some successes in business, like all the things we maybe dreamed of as a teenager. A lot of them, people listening here, are fortunate enough to have experienced that.
Yeah.
And this can feel really safe if I have my apartment, my nice job, my relationship, my friends.
Tick the boxes, yeah.
Tick all the boxes, it's great, I feel safe. But the enemy of safety can also be that it becomes boring and
complacency, yeah.
Yeah, and I think as humans, one of the basic needs, even good old Tony Robbins says that, is variety. And now, if everything is really good, if everything is really stable and safe, then I figured that why don't I actively seek new things for myself, maybe new challenges. So the idea that I had now was going to the Everest Base Camp or the Kilimanjaro in May.
Yeah.
Now, just as a little background, I used to be always super lazy. I hated cardio, still do. I always went the easy way. So this is not naturally something I would say, oh, I'm doing this because I love it. There's enough about it now that I'm looking forward to, that I can be excited. But there is also enough about it where I know, actually, I need to challenge myself. That includes, now this is a ripple effect, that includes my fear of not making it, because I'm maybe not in good enough shape in terms of cardiovascular health. So what I need to do is train for it.
Yeah.
So what that means is I'm going to do things in terms of maybe going running and stuff, which I usually wouldn't do.
Yeah.
But I need to do that. And the net positives are so big because this is the person I want to be. I want to be a 70-year-old man that is fit and healthy. And in order to be that, I actually should be running. But I wouldn't do that without that goal.
Yeah.
So the goal already today, even though it's in 4 months, makes me feel good because it makes me believe in this version of myself I want to be. So already the benefits have started today.
Yeah.
It will be good for my health. It will motivate me. I will be proud of myself for having done it. Then I will feel balanced and good, which will make me be in a better mood. So being better to my friends, to the people in my life, to having more focus for my business. Like it's just, actually it's quite logical when you think about it. I think it's such a positive ripple effect by picking things like this. And yeah, sometimes in some parts of the world, people suffer all the time naturally. And sometimes maybe we go through a breakup or somebody close to us dies, even here in Central Europe, and then we will suffer naturally as well.
Yeah.
But oftentimes things are good. So why don't I go and seek some things that are maybe a little bit painful in some ways, but allow me to feel better overall?
Yeah.
So yeah, because it's actually a super easy and logical thought.
Yeah.
Am I going to enjoy that pizza more if I eat pizza every day for 2 weeks, or if I eat it once a month?
Yeah.
If I come in and have that tea in front of the fireplace, if I come from the 30-degree beach, or if I was walking 2 hours in the snow. Because there's a difference. I was in a bit of pain, and then I receive a simple thing that feels so good. So once I understood that and started to trick my mind almost with seeking things that, maybe I don't love to do in this moment, but I know the net positive is there. And that just made my life so much better and a better person overall, and things are going better. And
Yeah. And just to reflect on that, like knowing you started with like just doing ice baths, or then doing them in the lake near your house in Weissensee in Berlin. And it's like starting with something simple and, it's not setting the goal. Like, of course, there is the goal to do base camp now, but like it started with an ice bath kind of thing. So I think there can be daily little tasks that allow us to feel not just like a physical reaction of dopamine, but also then the feeling of accomplishment of having done something new that's good for you. What I love about this goal, the Everest Base Camp, is you want to be the 7-year-old fit, healthy man, but it can be harder to use that as motivation today because like I can do it later. Whereas Everest Base Camp, if it's in 4 months, you kind of need to get going.
Yes. Yeah.
And what I love about that is we have this concept of, the cat and the cheese. So, this experiment where they put a starved rat in a tube and they put the smell of cheese in at the top of the tube and it measures with a spring how hard it runs towards the cheese. And it, ran pretty hard for the cheese. And then they do another one where they put the smell of the cat in behind as well as the cheese. So now it has the smell of cheese and cat and it runs far harder, like way, way harder. So the idea is that if we can leverage both our goals and the things we'd love to achieve, but also a little bit of fear, we're going to move better towards the things that are meaningful and important to us. So what you're doing is recognizing your fear of potentially failing and using that as motivation ultimately to get you to a place where you can actually be that fit and healthy version of yourself in the future and have this amazing experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. So setting those goals, like I think it's huge. And I think anyone, like this is why people, come out of the blue and decide they want to run a marathon. It's less about the actual running of the 26 miles, but it's more about the intention to do it.
The journey.
And who you need to become in that process. And I think the second thing is, as a man particularly, I know a lot of our listeners are male, so as a man, I think that's super important because the loss of purpose, the loss of something meaningful that you're driving towards it's the death of aliveness. It's the death of feeling full and happy and excited for life. And I think that can also be a huge antidote, to actually change someone around and get them back in that like feeling, really excited, which then creates a ripple effect for every other area, as you said, family and friends and kids and partner and business, Yeah.
I think it's all about this feeling of growth and progress. Like just, I want to move forward. If I'm staying in the same place all the time, I think I will just be disappointed in myself at some stage. And it doesn't matter what you pick. Be that like, for example, these physical goals, like going to the gym or losing weight, they're super easily measurable. That's something you can always do. But then maybe I want to learn a new language or all of this. It just does something to my mind when I see I'm becoming better at something. It just feels good.
Yeah.
And I think that's quite universal. I haven't met anybody who told me it feels bad to learn something new or improve in something.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's the nature of being human. So, as you may have picked up, we have these really cool retreats that we do, and we often find that they're also a pretty cool opportunity for people to come to an environment they've never been to, like coming to the Bali jungle. We have a retreat here next week, or the mountains of Georgia, or the Greek islands, and going there with intention and purpose and with a group of other like-minded growth-focused individuals to really challenge themselves, to go deep, to process these tabs and emotions in the background, and to create like new relationships and deepen themselves so that they can come back to life and step into the challenges of life with more power, more feelings of aliveness. So that's something that we're obviously really passionate about. That's why we do what we do.
Yeah.
What are you most excited for with them this year?
With the retreats?
Mm-hmm.
This is going to be a super exciting one now here in Bali,
Mm-hmm.
simply because we haven't done it before, and it will be very different in the content. And like, I think the topic that we talked about today, it's going to be a lot about feeling alive, because there was going to be a lot of facilitators and exercises and stuff we bring in that they have never done before.
Mm-hmm.
So because here in Bali, obviously there is a lot of really gifted, talented people that we can bring in to support us. So this will be a new format, and I think that's also important for us and for our clients, that we keep offer retreats with different themes, vibes, stimulus.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm also extremely looking forward to go back to Georgia. I always say this chalet that our assistant found there is the best accommodation I ever stayed at. The perfect mix of luxury and coziness.
Literally was built by the old president of Georgia.
Yeah, as his, I don't know, residence, and then he sold it. But it was like one of these moments when we had this long trip into the mountains on the bad streets and animals walking around, extremely beautiful panoramic views, but it was quite a trip.
Yeah.
And then just arriving there, and in that moment you could just see on everybody's face like, wow, we're so happy to be here. Just the table full of food, the panoramic views all around, and yeah, that was great. So I think we'll go back there over and over, because it's just a super nice place. Yeah.
And I think on that note, having a peak experience like a sunset, for instance, can create a deep memory. And I think there's something about, going to such a location with also then meeting a deeper level of ourselves and uncovering maybe new parts of ourselves we didn't know existed, that kind of cements that in as like, it really solidifies it as like, wow, this is like an experience that made me feel, really alive.
Yeah, for sure. And
Maybe we should
share that together with others. I mean, there's one of the guys I think is attending our third retreat now, just says, for now I don't even want to go on a holiday. Why would I? It's boring. I just rather go with you guys to these amazing places in nature with such a great group of people, and have some kind of a holiday experience as well, but also just much more than that.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess that's our podcast for today. It's been great to drop back in and always enjoy our conversations. If you've been listening to this and you're interested to hear more, learn more about our retreats, you can go to our website, reallyaligned.com. You can message us at contact@reallyaligned. You can get us on LinkedIn and Instagram as well. We've got a nice video on YouTube for our Georgia retreat if you're interested about checking that out. There's a couple of testimonials from guys who are in similar positions, like guys who are, have achieved a lot, but really wanted to achieve that next level of feeling full and full of life. And, I really enjoyed hearing the feedback from those guys. It really speaks to this about, reigniting their passion in life and excitement for life.
Yeah, 100%.
So we will see you in the next episode, and peace out.
See you next time.